Booyah! Ladies and gentlemen, what's up? It's coming at you one more time here, keeping it Rio. And today I have an incredible guest on the program. It is Richie Colletti, my main man from over, Chief Visionary Officer I see at richiecolletti.com. Also, the main guy at Leakbusters Roofing over in Florida. Richie, happy Sunday morning, my friend. How's everything going?
Great, Chuck. How's it going with you, buddy?
It's going pretty amazing. I'm actually super excited to have you on the show. I got to spend a couple months down there in Florida and hang out a little bit with you and learn a little bit about your company, your story, yourself. And I feel like this is a great opportunity to share it with the world because it's definitely amazing. And you're definitely a guy that's going places. So thank you for taking the time. Like I said, it is Sunday morning, so I appreciate that very much.
Well, and I'm excited to be here, buddy. So let's do it.
We're going to have some fun. So tell me a little bit. We'll just kind of get started here. A lot of people know you already because you're industry famous for sure. You were just a large speaker. You had a huge deal over here a couple weeks ago, but not always the case, right? Everybody has a point in life where they make a decision that they want to go out, they want to do their own business, or they get hit with reality and they say, damn, this is all I got. What's your story? How did you end up, getting into, number one, the roofing business, and number two, the evolution of Leakbusters as a company? What was it like for you?
So getting into the roofing industry was kind of a no-brainer for me. My father, my uncle, my brother, all of them were all basically in the roofing and construction industry as a kid. I used to work with them on the weekends and stuff like that. And my summer breaks consisted of me carrying shingles up the ladder like a quarter bundle at a time to eventually, everybody used to hand nail before. We didn't have all those nail guns when I was a kid. And I used to learn how to nail by nailing the ends of the shingles when the guys were running the shingles up in a pyramid pattern. I would nail all the ends, and I would,
Nice.
Kind of fell in love with the roofing industry, being outside, shirt off, summertime, different job every day. As a little kid being there, sometimes, the homeowners would let me swim in their pool. So that was pretty fun. So I just kind of fell in love with roofing as a young kid. And then as luck would have it, I didn't really like school. So I used to cut out of school all the time. By the time I, got into like the 4th or 5th grade, we had some woods in the middle of the island that I worked on. Hold on, I'm going to do a do not disturb here on my phone.
It's a busy man right here. He's probably just got $1 million contract texted over to him. I got time for that right now. I'm keeping it real. Come on.
Yeah, keeping it real. So ended up like cutting out of school a lot. And, the long story short, my dad kind of caught me one day. He came out to my fort in the middle of the woods and knocked on our little fort door and was, I was like, hey, how did you know I was here? And he says, I could tell on the days you didn't go to school, you would pack like 7 sandwiches and, 6 drinks, and he goes, and I kind of figured something up. So I followed you and I realized, followed you right into the woods over here. And now, if you don't want to go to school, you're going to have to go to work, so I started working, bounced back and forth and stuff like that with my, my brother going back from New York to Florida. And that was it. I had to start working at a young age. Basically dropped out of school in like 9th grade. I didn't really go to school a whole lot in 7th and 8th, and somehow or another I was just so bad. They used to just pass kids.
We just gotta get through the system. We got you so we can talk about how we got a good graduation rate. I got you.
Yeah. They just passed you. They were like, all right, we just got to get this kid out of here. It's too much trouble. So eventually I just got tired of doing that. And I ended up, going into the workforce, working in roofing and stuff like that. Fast forward in a little bit, I started partying and stuff as a young kid, a lot of drinking, a lot of doing drugs, acid, mushrooms, ecstasy, all the fun stuff. We did a lot of raves. I was always a party promoter on the weekends, and having raves and stuff and selling drugs. And bring you a little bit forward till I was in my late 30s, early 40s or whatever. I basically, that's about when I started finding where my bottom was. And I say bottom lightly because my bottom was getting kicked out of my house and I had to go live at a nightclub on the beach. I mean, I don't like to brag about that too much because, my wife hates that aspect of it, but she kicked me out, and I was working in a nightclub and basically getting drunk and high every night and just doing stupid stuff. And I finally just came to realize, I was like, you know what, I gotta get my shit together, And that's when I decided that I was going to go ahead and start studying for the roofing exam. By the way, I was working on the roofs in the weekends and spare time because I had to make ends meet, basically. So I was out doing repairs for another roofing company, a friend of mine. He actually kind of talked me into the license. He said, hey, I'll let you borrow the money. You could work it off to get the books and everything and take the test. So I started doing that and passed the test and got my license, was still broke. The day I got my license, a tornado hit like 40 minutes from my house. I had no gas in my truck. And I remember I was like begging my wife, like, I need $20. I need gas money. She's like, I'm not giving you no more. She'd been supporting me for the last like 9-10 years. She's just done.
She's ready to give up, right? When it's about ready to hit. That's how it always works too. That's crazy.
Yep. So I'm like, I got my license, a tornado hit. I've got to go. Please just give me the $20, And it was like a crackhead trying to get a hit. I was like, I just need gas. Well, eventually she just, gave me the $20. I went out there and I sold a couple jobs, and that kind of got me started with Leakbusters. That gave me the money to like kind of,
to start literally start moving.
Going, you know what I mean? And then I was able, had a little bit of money to operate, and I was able to build it up pretty good from that point. And I started making a little bit of money. It was like, great. I was like, my whole goal with owning a roofing company was to make more money so I can have bigger parties, because, I was kind of limited to what I had to do. I got burned on a couple of big like concerts that I was going to have. Like I think we got rained out one time, and one of the promoters took off with all the money the second time. So I was in a hole, like probably 20 grand on these parties, and I'm like, I can't do it because I got to rely on selling tickets to pay the bands and pay this and pay that. And it was a nightmare. So like I was like, great, this will be great. I'll be making some money. Now I got more money to invest in my parties.
Hey, that's a good reason, right? At that point in time, it seemed logical.
Yeah, it seemed logical. So fast forward again, actually before Hurricane Irma, I went down to the Keys, and I got a job that I was going to do down there, a little repair for a friend of mine. And I brought a buddy with me, and he was like, talk me into going down to Key West to go hang out and drink and stuff like that. We were going to meet one of our friends that worked for Budweiser. She was a promo girl down there. So we were going to go down there, meet with her, have some drinks, go home, finish the job, and then be on it. Well, somehow or another, whether I got drugged or not, I don't know. I did some shots. I ended up getting pulled over, and I was doing a sobriety test in the middle of Overseas Highway, about an hour and a half out of Key West. So I drove all the way. Didn't even know I was driving. I was completely blacked out. I came through while I was doing the sobriety test. Come to find out, they drug people on Key West with these shots. He's like, you can't drink that. And I was like, well, all right, so I'm good to go because it really wasn't my fault. And he's like, no, you're going to jail. So I ended up in jail. And I always tell this story because it's somewhat true. But really the 15 minutes before the story was when I decided I wasn't going to drink anymore. But when I went in to wait for the judge on Sunday morning, they said, we got to make everybody watch an intake video. Okay, great. They turn off the lights. They put on the video. And there's a picture of, there's a video of a guy, and he's in the shower and he's washing himself, and he's like this. And all of a sudden the soap just starts to fling off. And as it comes down, it goes into slow motion, and the guy's like, no, and it hits the ground, poof. And then it stops. And then there's this big black guy behind him, and he's all like this. And and then it just flashes off, and it says, if you see something, say something. Prison rape is real. And that was how the video ended. And then they turned the lights back on, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, getting out of here, right? And they all
with
busted out
right there. I am
right. Yeah. So that was like, I always say
reformed at this point,
but I think it was the foxhole prayer right before I got to the video that I basically said, I'm not drinking anymore. And I think that's,
I'll tell you what, man, that's a hell of a story right there. And it's crazy because, I mean, you could be dead right now, honestly. Any number of weird things could have happened along the path there, but you found your way. You got in, and I always love talking to people that are in the roofing industry, because the way that we get into it is always like just it's a lifesaver for some reason for almost everybody, right? I got in on a complete accident 25 years ago. I was just having a bad day at my drywall job, and I pulled into a roofing supply company, and here we are 25 years later. But along the way, there's been a lot of things that could have gone wrong that this has, helped me and kind of straightened me out with, and put me in line with some better people that have helped me become a better person as we go. you got your company going, you're doing your thing, you still got your side action going on. At what point do you say, okay, look, you know, the roofing it's going to be my way. I'm understanding that this is the thing. I'm done with drinking. I just had my come to Jesus moment. Like that could have been really, really bad.
Yeah.
You decided to commit 100%. So when you commit to it, obviously now that's when the real struggle starts, because now you're giving everything you've got to this one thing. You don't have anything on the side.
No.
You're in, dude. You got your family. You're ready to rock. What's it look like in the early days when you're trying to get out there and it's now going to be your primary and only source of income, and it's going to be the thing you're going to use to build your future?
So that would be about 12 hours after I got out of that jail cell. I finally made my way back home, walked and found my truck and all this other stuff. When I got home, I realized at that point, I was like, you know what? All I had was all my drunk buddies around me working for me. Everybody's hungover or they're at a party. They can't come to work till Tuesday. My schedule's always getting fucked up. Can you say that?
You can, absolutely.
You can edit it out.
Fucked up.
So that, you know, at that point, I started realizing I started making changes. Like I was like, all right, I got to start taking this serious. You know, I didn't realize that what I had by having a state certified roofing license in Florida was basically like my own Federal Reserve. It was like a license to print money. And once I started realizing that, I was like, holy crap, I can make as much money as I want to make. And I've never been like that because I've made money in restaurants and selling drugs and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And it's just not, you know, restaurants, you're always going to get a cap. You know, you might be able to own a restaurant one day, but there was, you know, I wasn't the levels of money that when I started doing a couple of jobs and it started stacking up, it was like $5,000 a day. And I was like, holy crap, if I could figure out how to do this every day, you know, so then that's when I started changing. I started getting rid of all the people that were working and started trying to find some serious people. Actually, went to a career source place to hire somebody, like vet somebody to like run my office for me. That was one of the single biggest mistakes I've ever made in my business was not knowing how to run a business. I was a salesman and I was a production guy. I sold and did jobs for my whole life since I was a young kid, and I didn't know how to run a business. And I thought that that wasn't a big deal. So I hired somebody out of a recruiting service. And basically after Hurricane Irma hit, we went down to the Keys and I was really busy. So she was running the home office, running all the money for everything, paying everybody, doing all this stuff. And I'm down there selling jobs like crazy, getting them done, just going crazy, depositing checks. Like, you know, I'm like, when I get out of here, you know, it's it, you know, I've heard people retiring after a good storm, you know what I mean? Or buying several houses. I get out of the storm and I was $750,000 in debt, you know? And it was like, this lady was like embezzling my money, buying whatever she wanted, going on trips to Disney World. She put a screen room on her house, brand new doors, floors, gutters, you know, and I didn't realize I didn't know how to read the numbers, you know, so all I knew is that I was in debt. And so that's when I really, really got serious. And I had I hired a forensic accountant to kind of coach me on how to read my numbers. And we developed some systems that I could easily find problems, like, you know, whether I was having a problem with labor, materials, or somebody was stealing, I could figure it out pretty quick. You know what I mean? We have a system now where we can look at it on a regular basis in real time, like, hey, boom, boom, and there's a problem right here. Okay. We can look at patterns. He taught me how to read patterns and numbers. And this is stuff that I never wanted to even think about. Forensic accounting.
I'm with you. We're sales guys, man. I don't have a high school education either. And it's just like, hey, dude,
yeah,
I know how to make friends.
Yeah, I'll be 100% honest. I don't do it. I know how to do it. Like if I have to sit down, if I have an issue with my numbers, I know how to sit down and figure it out. I won't do it. I don't like doing the money. I don't like looking at the money. I don't like thinking about the money. I like running and gunning and driving around and making friends. That's my whole goal and mission in this business. But I had to learn how to do that. And then that's when I really had to get real serious and start hiring other coaches too, to help me figure out how to get myself out of debt. You know, and that's, you know, I started in the insurance industry in like 2017, 18. And that's where, you know, I learned a whole nother problem. You know, I turned everything into an insurance job, and basically then I had another cash flow problem. So then I had to learn how to diversify my pipeline in order to keep paying my bills, you know? So And then, eventually leading me to wanting to grow and scale. And I couldn't figure that out. And that's how I kind of met up with, Lee and Sky Diamonds. And that's when things really took off for me.
Yeah. Okay. So, man, that is inspiring. And I didn't realize that you had gone through all those different trials and tribulations. To be honest, I know that everybody goes through some shit when they start. And,
That was the 5-minute
people,
view.
yeah, exactly. That's decades worth of stuff that just happened in time. But damn, you're overcoming a lot of stuff to be $750,000 in debt, to be a small company, to realize, and not to just freaking, turn around and run. Honestly, that tells you right there, okay, this guy's got some grit, he's got some determination, but number two, this is meant to be for him, okay, because he's willing to take the beatings. He's gonna, somehow weather the storm. And like you said, you end up meeting Lee Haight. And tell me a little bit about how you met Lee, because I agree with you. I think that Lee has a reputation that a lot of people that don't know him think differently of him. People that do know him understand exactly who he is and how to interact with him. And none of us ever have any problems, but you're obviously looking for some help. You're not in the greatest financial position at this point, I'm assuming, as well, because you just said you were 750 in debt.
Well,
so how does this work for you with Lee?
Well, okay, let me back up just a tad bit. I basically figured out, I did some other coaching programs, some of the other, SVG really helped me, with the insurance and getting acclimated in that. I was able to get myself out of debt. I figured out how to get out of debt. I flipped I bought a couple properties, owner finance, cleaned them up, fixed them, flipped them, figured out. I did a couple of different things, and I was able to get myself out of debt. So fast forward and back to where I met Lee, I basically had myself back to where I needed to be money in the bank. I was creating money, but I was at let's just say I was at $3 million a year, but I was like capped. That was it. I couldn't, because it was all me and like one other salesperson that did insurance, and he did a couple jobs a month, you know what I mean? And they were happy with that. Well, and I was at a point where I was making decent money, you know what I mean? A few $100,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year, which I was like, great. I made it. I got my dream house. I'm out of debt. My business is running. I only got to work 3 or 4 hours a day. And then like what started happening was I would go on like a week's vacation, come back, and then my pipeline would dry. Right. So then I didn't have any work going on. Then my crews are like, oh, maybe I need to find another, if you don't have work for Latinos one day, they're like, oh, we need it. Maybe we need to find another job. Is everything okay? And they're like, everything's fine. Don't worry. I'm going to sell more work. So I'd have to work overtime to sell more jobs. So like, I didn't have that freedom of being able to leave. And plus I had to always oversee the production too. So I was kind of stuck, I guess. And I tried hiring guys. Could never find the right place. I'm put ads on Facebook. I get every person I didn't want. I very rarely will put ads on my personal page because I just don't want the people certain people that are on my friends list or whatever to apply for a job, because I don't, I'm looking for new, fresh people. So I can never find it. It would take me months. The person wouldn't work out. Production, forget about it. I didn't even know how to train a production manager or whatever. So I had to basically do all of that. That was the last thing on my mind, was trying to figure out how to find one of them. I couldn't even find a sales rep. So when I decided that I wanted to grow, I wanted to be able to help some of the people working for me achieve their goals, because I'm big goal orientated with people. When you come to work for me, I want to know what your goals are. Like, I want to know your 1 year, 1 year, 5 year, 10-year goals. How much money do you want to make, and what do you want to acquire? Do you want to buy property? Do you want to do this? What do you want to do? So I wanted to know, I know the goals of people, and that's how I figure out who I'm working with based on their goals. But I couldn't get enough work to help these people achieve their goals. So I started looking around, and I really didn't even know who Lee Haight was. To be honest with you, I've seen a video of his pop up once or twice on one of those roofer forums on Facebook, and I didn't really pay any attention to it. I just kept on scrolling. And then Mike Hammer Martinez, he hit me up one day, and I guess he was doing some stuff with Lee right before the conference or whatever. And he hit me up and got me some tickets to go to the conference. That was like the first time I was really exposed to Lee. And basically when he was up there, doing his pitch on Sky Diamonds and everything, and I was like, everything he was saying was like, it was hitting me. It hit me. It hit, you know what I mean? It was like, yeah, that's my problem. Yeah, that's my problem. And I'm taking notes and writing down all this stuff. And I'm like, man, that hits me. That's when I decided I want to look into it a little bit more. So I went to the back of the table, signed my name up, and sure enough, they called me up a couple days later. And basically, like, I was shell shocked when I found out the price of the program. I mean, it ain't cheap. Like, the only other programs I've ever been in were like $5,000, but they didn't give me everything I needed to achieve my goals. I got a little bit out of the $5,000. Anytime I spend $5,000, and it's not a bad number to get started with mastermind, but there was no masterminds. It was just, here you go, $5,000. Here's a bunch of videos, watch it and learn. No one-on-one, nothing like that. I didn't have like a coach kind of giving me lessons and, holding me accountable or none of that. So I basically kind of talked myself into spending the money on the program. And then I took it real serious because it's a substantial amount of money. So I believe if you got to pay attention, like if that was something that somebody gave me for free, it would be easy for me to just not even tune in, like, oh, it's great. Yeah. He's doing his mastermind webinar, whatever. But I paid the amount of money I paid. I was on every single one of those webinars, and every week I took notes and I would write down, what I was supposed to do. And I would go do it, for the whole week. I would do everything I was on. And then every week, it started just growing and growing. I got the, doing the ads to get recruits in, and then the trainings, and then this and everything he told me to do. And it all just started working, and it started compounding. And my life just started getting easier and easier because I started attracting all of the training that he does. All of a sudden, if you do everything that Lee tells you to do, people are going to be attracted to you. So they're going to start following you. Then you're going to start getting these instant messages. Then people are going to want to come work for you, because what he teaches you how to do is expose yourself and put yourself out there so people get to know who you are, and you be your authentic self, and then people will be attracted to you. Rather than you going out trying to find people, they're coming to me in flocks now. So it's like the best money I've ever spent.
Right. And I so many people, I got to go down there for 97 days and work in the Sky Diamond's office with Lee. And I understood exactly how he thought beforehand. I thought, but then you get in there and it's like, oh my gosh, like this dude's on a completely different level. And I think that's why so many people don't understand, or so many people have problems, because honestly, some people just don't think on that level. Right. And it's a completely different ballgame when you're up here. And the thing that really impressed me the most is Lee, he says what he's going to do, and then he does it, and he absolutely does it, right? And the thing that impressed me the most in my 97 days, Lee's got a client, a Sky Diamonds client, who's doing everything that he's been asked to do. He's extremely coachable. He's kicking everybody's butt. This dude drives like 2.5 hours one way twice a week to come work out in Naples, Florida, from his home, just so he has the opportunity to get a little bit more of that energy, a little bit more of that vibe. And of course, the person I'm talking about is you. So tell me a little bit about that mindset, because to me, it's like, okay, this guy gets it. And I'm the same way. I would do that. When Lee called me, I flew to his office like a day and a half later. I was there, and I literally spent 97 days living out of a suitcase. And like 90% of my stuff was here in Texas. But that's kind of the way I am. I want to learn. And I feel that was the thing that really impressed me. So tell me how that all came about, and tell me, what motivates you to do that continuously week after week.
Okay. So I'm glad you asked that, because that's a great question. And I get asked a lot, and I've been wanting to elaborate on it. So first and foremost, I went to break the code, and Nick Santasasa, or Sosa, or however you say his name, was saying something about, I was way overweight, unhealthy, lazy, had no motivation. Just like, I was still doing stuff, and people were still like, how are you getting so much done? And me, I was like in a sense where I felt like I had to like force myself to get going. Like I had to like start the engine every morning. When I got out of bed, I had to make myself go. I just wanted to be able to get out of bed and just want to go. So Nick was talking to me while I was in the crowd, basically saying, here's how you get your energy levels up. This is how you get in shape. He's like, I got one arm and no legs, and, and I'm out here doing more workout than you. And I was like, fuck, he's right. So then I hit Lee up right away, because I knew he worked out every day. I'm like, I need to go work out. Where are we going to do? It's like, well, here's where I go to the gym Tuesdays and Thursdays or whatever at 7:00. And so I was like, all right, boom. So I started showing up. So one, I wanted to get myself some more energy levels and get hyped up, right? Now, can I just go to the gym over here? Yeah, I could, but I wanted more coaching time. So I figured out that if I could go right over there at 7:00 in the morning, I can work out with Lee for an hour, but also I can steal at least 2 or 3 more hours of his time afterwards. Not necessarily steal, but he kind of forces me to hang out with him sometimes, which has been great because we get to mastermind and do more different things and business deals. And he's been teaching me how to be one of the Sky Diamonds coaches and stuff like that for the last basically 6 or 7 months. But it's hard to get that kind of time with the mentor or somebody on Lee's level. But if you go and do the things that they want to do, then you can get that extra time. That's kind of how the house I'm living in now was basically a business coach. How I met him, he had a leak in his roof. I came over, fixed the leak for free. He told me his plans for building a cow pasture around the property. So I offered to help him build the fences for free because I knew I would get 6 or 7 hours with a guy that charges $10,000 an hour to coach corporate businesses. I was like, everybody made fun of me for working for free and being Kyle's bitch. But at the same time, I'm getting 6 hours of $60,000 a day worth of coaching from the guy. He helped me a lot with my business too, teaching me the business end of it. So the same thing, I took the same theory and I applied it with Lee. I got the extra time. I was able to get involved in some more deals. So every time I go hang out with Lee, something else big breaks. So it's like, that's one of the driving forces. The other one is I get 2.5, 3 hours there and back. So that's almost 6 hours a day of free time for myself to think and learn. I like to listen to audiobooks and stuff when I drive. I drive in the time at 3:00 in the morning till 6:00 in the morning. So my phone never rings. Nobody bothers me. So it's just me and whatever my thoughts are. I also get the opportunity to be forced to learn how to delegate, because that was my problem. If a grenade happened, I would go jump on it right away. So now I'm driving, I'm middle of the state. You call me with a problem, I can't fix it for you. So it helped me learn how to be more of a delegator, because, everybody's a business owner. You just want to go jump on these grenades all the time. You know what I mean? And you want to, it makes you feel good as a business owner or a problem solver to be able to be the one to go fix the problem. But now I can't, because I'm not there. So now I have to learn how to communicate with my team and make them, not make them, but have them take care of these grenades. And I've been learned how to delegate 100 times better. Now it's given me another level of freedom to my business. So there's a lot of different things. If you unpack that a lot, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why I do that. Some people think I'm stupid that I take 3 hours. Somebody told me the other day that I need to invest in a jet so I could, get there faster and I won't waste any time, but I don't waste time. I use all that time. That time by myself is ideal for me.
Yep. It's all about perspective. And I'll tell you, dude, that's the thing that impresses me the most. And I think that is the secret to being friends with Lee and being like in his circle, is that he will invest the time. He will make sure that you stick around and that you get more value because you're putting more into it. And I think a lot of people just misunderstand that. And they say, well, this dude's kind of a hard ass, or he's this or that, which is true to a certain degree. But you get to hang out with Lee on a personal level. I got to hang out with him on a personal level, spend time with his family, all this stuff. I understand the guy. He doesn't miss his kids' games. He's in the office. His daughter was filming a course on how to, help teenagers become entrepreneurs. Super good guy, family guy, a guy that, is always there for people. And I think the biggest misconception is just that, if you put the time and the energy in, you're going to get the results because he's going to make sure of it. And if you don't get the results, it's on you, because this dude is at the gym every 100%. Freaking Tuesday and Thursday. He stands behind what he says. He does it, and it's like, okay, this is great. Lee has been super cool to me. I've never even been a client of his. And he's treated me amazing over the years, because he always says, he comped me tickets to the event last year because he said, I know you would come. I gave you the ticket because I knew you would come, and maybe one day we'll work together. Well, this year I got to work with them on the conference, which was an amazing opportunity. I got to do a 6-hour live telethon with the guy who I think is probably the best at what, the social media aspect of this whole thing is. Yep. I think Lee is the absolute best. I got to hang out with that guy and see how he does it. So it's all about taking the opportunity. It's all about knowing, okay, if I don't take it, I'm going to lose out on this. Who knows what could happen if I do? Because, I mean, had I not gone to Florida, you and I wouldn't be sitting here right now. We wouldn't even know each other. I can say that about a lot of different people. And the opportunities that are going to move forward with it is something even bigger. So I think that's cool. But tell me just a little bit, because I'm going to clip this one up. Lee Haight, the guy, versus Lee Haight, the guy that you see on the social media ads, who's super hyped up. The reality of the matter is Lee is that hyped up in real life. He is not playing a character because he's so passionate. But tell me a little bit about your personal experience, your family, you know, the way that you've been affected and impacted just by knowing Lee and the guy that he truly is.
Well, so obviously, financially, freedom that I've gotten from him teaching me how to like do these things, just having like an accountability partner. So he's been more like he basically started as my coach. Now we're more accountability partners for each other. We kind of hold each other to a higher standard. We've gotten closer to where, we're working more together. So it's definitely changed me for a bit, because I'm more health conscientious being around him, because he works out like 7 days a week, you know what I mean? And just trying to, get my mind physically fit, so to speak, my body physically fit, or my mind mentally fit. So sorry. And then physically fit, financially fit. The connections that I make when I'm hanging around him. I mean, not like I have had other coaches, but I've never had anybody, one of my coaches throw a conference and then give you full access to all of these speakers that you've been following for years, and you're backstage with them, hanging out and getting their phone numbers, and arranging podcasts with them and stuff like that. It's like, so that's changed like who I am. Like the biggest problem I had before I met Lee is nobody knew who I was. You know what I mean? And he's helping work on that. Like, one day at a time. I shake hands with more people now than I ever have, because I put myself out there more. Those are things that he taught me. Like, I never wanted to do a video on Facebook. You know what I mean? Now like he forced me to like put videos out of myself. You know what I mean? And the importance of it. Like, I've always seen like Gary Vee and all those guys, like the annoying voices, like, I gotta, nothing wrong with Gary Vee or nothing like that. But I just don't listen to that. I didn't understand what the importance was, until like he taught me the importance of getting yourself out there. And, the more hands you shake, the more money you make, and it's not always all about making money, but helping people and saving lives. That's another avenue. It cleared up my vision of what my goals really are, to help people succeed, and how to help people succeed. You know what I mean? How to be a leader and bring people to that point where they are, making money financially, they're making moves, they're achieving their goals, and they're growing as human beings. So those are some of the things.
I think that's the whole point of this. And people do lose sight of it. And, there is a lot of money involved in the roofing and the restoration and all that stuff, but it's really what you do with it. And that I'm going to go off topic for just a second, because something just hit me in the moment. And I hope, I hope I don't ruffle any feathers. I kind of already did a little bit ago with somebody that was one of your Facebook contacts, where you were posting something, and it was a confidence post, and you were talking about, the money that you're making now was something that you'd never even dreamt possible, and yada, yada, yada. Really just, it was a feel good post about a guy who has done the work, who's gotten there. And I click on there and I'm like, Richie, you're the man, or whatever. But then I start scrolling down and I see my man over here has got a friendly hater sort of deal going on. And some guy is on there talking about, Richie, you've changed, or everybody's offended by the way you're talking. Take away your money and tell me what kind of a person you are at that point, yada, yada. And I got a little offended by that, because to me, I realized, okay, this is the guy who's going to take the money that he's using and he's going to apply it to something really amazing, continue to help more and more people with that. But as you continue to evolve, like you said, as more people get to know you, this is going to become more and more predominant. You're going to get more people that are going to be hating on your success because they're stuck where they are and they never did anything beyond that. How does that feel for you? You know, is that something that you're able to take and just kind of take with a grain of salt? Do you take any of that shit personally? And number two, continue doing what you're doing, man, because you're inspiring way more people than you're offending. And the people that are offended by that need to take a look in the mirror. But completely different story there. Tell me a little bit about your experience with that, because I know you are probably getting a little bit more attention, and with that comes both good and bad.
Yeah. So yeah, you do. You're always gonna get haters whenever you start doing things and making moves and stuff like that. And I'm a little cocky, but not like boastful in a sense. Like, I mean, he took me wrong. I never even really said anything about money I make or how good I'm doing or great I'm doing, but I talk more about how many people I can help. You know what I mean? It's more, I do a lot of good stuff with my money. Like, I donate roofs to organizations, and, you know, we just did a roof for a veteran last week, you know. But people are going to hate you. When you grow up in a small town and you were that class clown to the drunken guy, to the promoter, to, you know what I mean? I never really had my shit together. I was popular and people liked me and stuff like that, but I never really had my shit together. So that's the vision that a lot of people hold of me in their head, is that, you know, fun master party, Richie Colletti. It's never gonna, you know, nobody ever thought I was going to ever get it anywhere, you know? And that bothers people when they're the same and they're doing the same thing. They got that 9 to 5 mentality to go to work, clock in, clock out, get their paycheck. They do the same thing. They watch their football game. You know what I mean? It's just the same shit. They're never getting anywhere. They're saving themselves some money so they can retire one day. And then you got me, who's out there, just let it all ride, you know, let's go. And I gamble, you know what I mean? And I'm not afraid. I have balls, and I'm willing to go take the next step and do stuff and risk. I risk a lot, you know, so that offends people when they're not in that mood to do that. And they see that, and that's why, like, a lot of people preach that you can't be a prophet in your own town. Like, I have more respect when I go to Naples or, you know, Punta Gorda, or I show up in a different town somewhere, Orlando or whatever. I show up and then people were like, hey, oh, wow. You know, but here in town, everybody just remembers who I was and they can't see who I am, you know, and that's fine. And I don't really, to be honest, I really don't. Sometimes it depends on who it is, but most of the time it doesn't bother me at all. Like Brad Lee said, people suffer from allodoxophobia, the worrying about what other people think about them. That's what that means, is worrying about what other people think about you. And I really don't care. You know, I've already got the wife and family of my dreams, the house of my dreams. You know, I'm building my other dream of owning other properties, and I'm eventually going to own a campground type of spot where people can come out. I'm working on that. I mean, I'm only a couple of years away from having everything that I ever put on my vision board. So it doesn't really bother me. Nobody's taking that away from me. I work for it. I try to put my stuff out there and talk in a sense to where I want people who want better for themselves to come to me. And that's what happens. And there's 3 or 4 people that don't want that, and they get upset over it. Well, that's fine. But I have 25 or 30 people that hit me up in my inbox all the time that want to get lunch with me and talk to me and try to get some business advice from me. And I've been able to help out, you know, hundreds of people by just giving them some advice, you know. And now, being a coach with Lee, I get to help even more people because the people are coming to his program, and then I get to pour myself out on them. So I don't really give a fuck what anybody thinks about me. You know what I mean? It ain't going to hurt me. I already got what I want. So I don't have anybody to impress. I mean,
it's a beautiful thing, right?
I don't have anybody I need to impress.
Yeah, that is the best feeling, and it's the best outlook to have, because a lot of times in life, and I've been guilty of it my entire life, I care about what other people think. I'm trying to please more people. I've always put other people in front of myself, and then I look around and it's like, where's everybody at when I need you? No, you're not here. So I can respect that, and I can respect not caring, because that's one of those things that probably cost me a lot of progress in life, quite frankly. So good for you. Let's talk about, now you're in the moment, right? So you've done the work, you've done the stuff. Sky Diamonds has helped you take your company from one level to the next. this year you get to be number one. You get awarded with a championship belt on fight night in front of the entire packed house. You get your speaking stage, you know, your spot on stage at a major conference to tell your story. You get to bring your family up on stage. You just said you got access to everybody in the back. You and I were back there having a great time.
Well, yeah.
And, you know, got to hang out with amazing people throughout the entire course of the weekend. Tell me a little bit about your blue collar American dream experience, what your big takeaways were, you know, what you would do different, if anything, because I think everybody probably has like one thing they would maybe have changed up just a little bit. I would have made the bathroom a little bit closer, but you know, what was your takeaway from the event? You know, seeing it from the backstage perspective was completely different for me, and it made me really appreciate how hard it is to put stuff like that together. But
Absolutely.
What was your take?
I thought it was overall a great intimate event. I like events with less people in them. I know it's not a financially sound decision to make sometimes when you got that caliber of speakers and expenses going out into a show. But I truly believe that, you know, that was a great event. There was great speakers there. I got to connect because it wasn't, you know, some of the speakers were there and they were there for a couple hours, where a lot of times they fly in and they fly out. You know what I mean? They come out, they might shake a couple hands, kiss a couple of babies, and then they're off on, you know, flying off in their helicopter or taking off in their Lamborghini. But some of these speakers hung out there for a couple of hours, had lunch with us and everything like that. So it was great. I would have probably, and, you know, I'm probably going to help out a little bit more on the next event too. And I would like to see a little bit more in the breakout session type of things. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I suggested I didn't suggest it. I said I went to another event and there was no schedule. And I think somebody took me serious on that one and there was no schedule. The theory is if there's no schedule, then you're going to hear speakers that you wouldn't normally hear. Like if you knew that, you know, Brad Lee speaking at 1 o'clock and you didn't even know who the other guys are, you're not going to come there until 1 o'clock and you're just going to hear Brad and you're going to miss Alex Morton, which would have been great for you. But at the same time, I like schedules. So I like to know what, you know, I like to know so I can plan accordingly and then plan breakout sessions in between all that other stuff. So that way you can, you know, do some one-on-one learning with some people or, you know, small group learning or something like that. Do some, you know, that's some of the stuff I like to see, some breakouts, you know.
Yeah, I can definitely respect that because I think, you know, there was a lot of information that was taken in there, and maybe you make a good point. Maybe if you had a little bit of a change of environment, you'd see some of these speakers in a different light. Maybe you'd get a little different information from them. That's a very, very good piece of feedback. So out of the people that you got to meet there, which one you know, whether it be a speaker, whether it be another contractor, whether it just be some random person that came up to you throughout the course of the weekend, who's the most memorable person that you got to meet as part of this event?
Nick.
Yeah?
I actually got to have lunch with Nick and his partner Tarek, and you know, we've connected after the event too, and that was like probably one of the most powerful conversations I've ever had. We had lunch and we talked for like an hour and a half until everybody was like, "Hey guys, we got to go back into the event now," you know. So, but that was a really cool. I met a lot of, you know, I got to like meet and talk to Alex Morton. I got to talk to Brad Lee, you know, Lance Bachman, like all these people that I've been following on Instagram and stuff like that I haven't had direct access with. I got to like hang out with a lot of them, plus a lot of the contractors and people off in Facebook land that I never met. You know, it was kind of cool that a lot of these people came there and they're like, "Hey, Richie, whatever," you know, and got to meet some of those people in real life. Was really cool. So
it's good to be Facebook famous sometimes, you know. It gets you into some weird positions in life. I got to be one of the co-MC type people of that event. I got to get up on stage and introduce Eric Oberempt. I got to introduce Todd Price, two of the biggest guys in the roofing industry. Forrest Griffin. It's like, this is pretty amazing, right? You got up there with your family. You got to tell your story. Was that your first time ever speaking on stage of a magnitude such as that?
That was the first time I've spoken a magnitude like that. I mean, you know, back in the day, I was in AA and I've, you know, spoke in front of several hundred people at a retreat, like when I was 7 days sober. That was pretty nerve-wracking. but I pulled through. But this was like in a magnitude like that, to be on a flyer with some of the guys I've been following forever. I mean, that was unreal. So definitely blew me away. Now I'm like kind of addicted to it a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of looking for some other some other opportunities.
Podcast episodes on Sunday morning. I get you. Trust me. Once you do a little bit of it, it's like, ooh, that was fun.
Ooh, that feels good.
we were talking about how the conference was not a trade show per se, but it was definitely a personal development. There was a ton of amazing speakers. One of the things that you spoke about when you were up on stage was diversification. Okay, you understood how to make the roofing company work. You got with the right people, you put the right systems in place, you've put the right people, and you learned how to delegate. So now you've got some time to work on other things. I know you've got a farm. One of the things you were talking about, though, was your real estate investments. And it was I don't know if it was very unique, but it was unique, relative to what you typically hear at a conference as far as how you're going about securing these properties for your portfolio, how you're building your real estate investment side of your life as well. Tell me a little bit about how you got into that, how you figured out the ways to go about doing it, and what you're doing to, make it mutually beneficial for all parties involved.
All right. So I've always knew real estate was the way I wanted to go. I just never had my shit together enough to be able to do it. Always thought you had to have good credit and a bunch of money to get into real estate. And then, from going to a conference, it was, again, break the code, came across a guy named Pace Morby, who was up there talking about subject to. Subject to is basically where you take over somebody's mortgage. You don't need any credit. You just basically got to make sure you have enough money for the payments every month. And then if you're going to rent the property out, you just got to make sure that the property is going to cash flow. So like there's a unique system that he teaches, and a couple other, I actually, in another, mastermind too with investing. It's called Investor Schooling. And the subject to, basically, you don't really worry about how much the house actually costs, what the interest rates are, what the insurance costs, none of that stuff. You just take the expenses, whatever the expenses are a month, and you make sure that, let's just say it's $1,500 a month for all the expenses on the house. You make sure that it cash flows. You make $2,300 to $2,500, so you make $800. Because the reality is I'm not paying for these houses. I'm renting them out, and somebody else is paying for it. So as long as I keep them rented out, and there's money left over every month after all the expenses, the house technically cash flows. So that's how I bought the house I live in right now, was a subject to. But I also do other DSCR loans, which is basically a investor loan. You don't really need credit for that either. It's another cash flow thing. As long as there's a cash flow on a job after expenses, they'll give you the loan. So I got one of those. I got another deal in contract right now with a DSCR loan. I got owner finance deals that I do where the owner basically holds the note. I'm in contract for another property right now where this one's really creative. Basically, the owner is going to get me the financing, and he's going to kick in $100,000 to help build this property out the way I want. Because basically what it is sharing a vision. I have a vision of what I want to do with housing and real estate, and how I want to where I eventually want to land. So when you got a clear vision of what you want to do, and you sell that vision to the people around you or your team, and it makes sense, and everybody wants to get on board. Even the people selling the properties want to get on board. So like I have owners that are like, hey, I'll give you the money to buy the property, but I'll also kick in money for you to help renovate the property. I want a piece. I want to be part of that club that you got. Like I have a real estate club. If you go back to my podcast with Lee, I kind of like describe my real estate, my Airbnb club is what I call it. It's kind of like timeshares. You invest in the properties that I'm doing. You get a percentage of the ownership of that property. So you get a residual income coming out of that property, but you don't only get to use that property, you get to use all of our properties. So we have, right now, probably 6 or 7 properties ranging from like Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, Costa Rica, the west coast of Florida. We're looking at another property up in the mountains of North Carolina by a ski resort. So like if you're an investor in one of my properties, you have access to all of them. So, and it all Airbnbs, and that's how those properties make a profit, and that's how you get your money back. But you also get like a vacation club. So I basically have a clear vision of how I do that, and I sell that vision to some of these people trying to sell the properties, and then they want to be partners with us. And so I got another one under contract right now that the guy wants to be a partner because he's like, this great idea. So I just don't have the energy to do it. So if you can do this, I'm in, you know, I'm like, okay, well, you talked me into it. Handshake, let's go. You know, so, but I also, there's multiple layers to it. Investing in income properties also is a depreciation for your taxes. So it's definitely a big tax benefit. I get involved with real estate deals with the people who work for me. So it's kind of like, instead of offering something boring and stupid like medical and dental and maybe a 401k, which is so boring, like you got to either get hurt or die to get anything from the benefits that most people are offering. Benefits of working with me is you get to invest with me. You get a residual income. You know what I mean? You have a depreciation that you can use towards your taxes and stuff like that. So I'm helping build people with long-term investments to where they can get a residual coming back. I think that's, to me, that's way better than medical or dental. You know, you got these sales reps are making $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a week. I mean, go get yourself a fucking policy. You know, I don't want to give you something like you got to get sick in order to use it. I want something that I want your family to enjoy the benefits that I'm giving you or helping you with.
Yeah. So, what a different mindset. And I mean, that's what makes me really appreciate you as a guy, because you think differently. And I think that's why you and Lee get along so well, because he's the same way. He 2 or 3 steps ahead of the game at all times. So that's pretty amazing. We're getting ready to start winding her down. I try to keep these around an hour. We're like 51 minutes in. Yep. I could go like 3 days here. So let's kind of wind it down a little bit. We talked about how you've got your vision, just talked about your real estate being your ultimate vision as well. Let's do the, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road vision for Richie as a guy, for his roofing business, for his real estate business, for the entire picture. What does the future look like if everything goes according to your plan as it's laid out today, which we know it's not going to? You're probably going to end up owning Disney World by the time it's all said and done. But if everything goes according to the way you want and there's no hiccups and everything's flawless, what's it look like for you down the road?
3 years down the road, I'm going to own 5 Airbnb properties scattered out. Costa Rica, you know what I mean, in the mountains, somewhere in Florida, there's going to be those Airbnb properties, large scale properties. We're looking to own probably in 3 years, probably about, I would say maybe 50 houses that are Airbnb. And then 5 years, we want to cash all those 50 in, take that money and buy apartment complexes. And in the apartment complexes, we were looking to own a minimum of about 100 of them within 10 years. So they're all cash flowing. The people that get involved with me in my investment group, as we grow, that our 10-year goal is that we're going to have enough of that money coming in, flowing from those properties, that none of us are going to have to work anymore. And we're going to be able to travel around to whatever Airbnb properties we have and go on vacation for the rest of our life. But also that's one avenue. And the other avenue is business acquisitions too. So recently we've been getting involved in buying and selling businesses, and also building up our company. Me and Lee had partnered up, Ricky Southers and Roofs Only with Michael, partnered up to try to build a $1 billion roofing organization. So within 3 years, we're going to have that $1 billion roofing organization. And a lot of the money from the real estate investing is going to come from that acquisition, that we're going to combine all these roofing companies together. We may sell to a private equity, or we may not need to. We may just have enough money coming in where it may not be worth it for us to sell a $1 billion roofing company. We might just have enough money coming in residually that we don't have to sell. And I think that might be what happens, because that's what their goals are. The private equity is to get the $1 billion roofing company. So if we create our own $1 billion roofing company, what the hell's the matter? We don't, we're all going to be making $1 million a year anyway. Who cares? Right.
Yep. And then it kind of freezes out that whole plan of the insurance carriers taking over the world. So I respect that. And between you and me and whoever's watching, I'm working on a plan to get involved in that as well with Lee. I spoke with him, and I'm trying very hard to get some stuff going over here so I can also just be a part of it, because I see what you guys are doing. It's amazing. I think, I was having lunch with Lee just right before I flew back, and I told him, I mentioned you specifically and Ricky Southers, and I said, these guys they're just like me. I've spent 25 years in the roofing industry. I started as a delivery driver. I don't have any like amazing inheritance. I don't have anything, I've gone and taken my lumps along the way. And, just keep learning and keep stepping forward and keep getting into better rooms and getting around more quality people as you go. And over the 25 years, I've met some of the most incredibly amazing people in this world. Here in the last 3 months, you know, I got to sit in that office and I got to learn from some of the very best people in our game. It ignited my fire, and I want to be a part of that. So I'm working on a couple different options right now to hopefully make that happen. And I told Lee that my goal next year is I want to be like Richie, and I want to get one of the championship belts. You know, I got a picture of myself with the belt already, but it was kind of bogus because I was there and I just was like, Lee, take my picture real quick. But it's for the vision board, and I'm wearing the championship belt. So I think it's an amazing thing. I think having these goals that people look at you and think you're crazy or you've changed so much. A lot of my friends don't talk to me anymore either, and it's cool. But it's like, that's how you really know you're doing something in life. And you start working around people. And you mentioned something that really hit me just a little while ago. I used to plan my entire weekend around like the football game. I'm still a big Ohio State fan. You can see behind me here. I got old Brutus and all that. But I used to really plan like my whole day towards watching like 18 to 21-year-old kids play football. And it was like in my 30s, if they lose the game, I'm kind of pissed off for a couple of days. And it's like, you realize, okay, what's going on here? And the more you get around different people, the more you start to grow as a person. You start to see different perspectives. And it's like, man, there's a whole lot more going on in this world that you could be enjoying and you could really be having fun doing. And being around guys like you, like Lee, the people in my past that I've been able to be super fortunate to be around, like Mike Code. He's a super consultant. He gets paid 6 figures by roofing companies to go train him. And Mike used to let me go with him and do in-house consulting with roofing contractors. So I've been blessed. And I think a lot of it is, number one, it's not us having talent. It's just, like you said, having balls. It's believing in yourself and saying, okay, I'm going to do it. And then actually just doing what you're supposed to do. So I think that's really amazing. I appreciate you for who you are. I've really enjoyed getting to know you and become friends over the last couple months. And I know that's going to be something that's going to last for the rest of my life. And in closing, I always like to ask people, obviously you're becoming superstar Richie. You've got the championship belt. I saw you the other day posting a selfie wearing a suit in your bathroom wearing the championship belt. So I know you're walking around the house dressing like Ric Flair wearing the belt. Woo! You got the swagger going on. So if any of the people watching this are not following you now, number one, get your head out of the sand because this dude's making things happen. But where do they go to follow you? If people want to get a hold of you, maybe get a part of the real estate investing group or, business development in any capacity, what are the best avenues that people can use to get a hold of Richie Colletti from Leakbusters?
Well, so really, I've become Googleable. You can kind of Google my name and one of the biggest branding lessons I've ever learned was make sure all your social media has your name in it. Like, don't make up some stupid ass name. Just Richie Colletti. You type it in on Instagram. Rio. Yeah, Facebook, TikTok. They're all YouTube. Everybody has richiecoletti.com. You got, but everything has Richie Colletti in it, so you can look up that way. And I usually answer all of my own social media, like my Facebook and, not my business pages. I have other people that handle those, but my personal pages, I still manage all those accounts. So you can send me messages on Instagram, or Facebook. And as far as the investing groups, I mean, there's a select group of people that you really have to get vetted serious because it's like getting married. Yep. So you really got to be in our club for a little bit to get to know us and make sure that you're a good fit or we're a good fit for you even. So that, that's basically connecting with us and joining our masterminds and palling up with us and stuff like that and getting to know us. Those are the people that we're going to work with, is the people that are investing in themselves.
There you have it, folks. That is a quick hour that's gone by. I've enjoyed every second of this conversation. I'm going to go back and clip it up. I'm going to make this, one of the most clipped up episodes ever because I kind of had a little bit of a bullet point agenda for how I was going to do it. Richie, thank you for taking time. Sunday morning, I appreciate you. This is going to come out on a Tuesday. Nobody's going to know the true sacrifice that you had to put into just being here on Keepin' It Rio. And I appreciate that because I know you certainly didn't have to do it. So thank you, my friend. Enjoy the rest of your day. thank you to everybody who's watching, for subscribing, for being part of Keeping It Rio. One thing that was cool at the conference, a lot of people came up and said that they're a fan of my podcast. So
That's awesome.
I appreciate all you guys very much, and we'll keep doing it as long as it's fun for me and everybody likes it. And until next time, cheesy tagline is keep on keeping it Rio.